assistants because they want this to be a true personal digital assistant. So they interviewed 1,000 assistants and they said, what is the common denominator? Like, how are you an assistant? And the first thing they said is, we have a notebook. Like every assistant has a notebook of preferences. And so what Cortana does, the first thing is there's a notebook here, right? That tracks interests, reminders, quiet hours, what I'll talk about, inner circle, places, music searches. But take interest as an example. So this is mine. And what you'll see here is I can tell Cortana what my interests are, but Cortana also learns. Like if I start searching for Microsoft, I'll give you a real example. I was in the Napa Valley earthquake about 2 months ago, right in the epicenter on Sunday. I was at a hotel. And so obviously I started querying very quickly what was happening there. Cortana said, hey, I noticed you've been interested in Napa earthquakes. Do you want me to register that? And I said, yes. So now Cortana gives me updates on that. So you can see, here's some of the things. So earthquake in Napa. So she just starts to track these things. I could also say, hi, I'm interested in, Philippines mobile sales or market share for Lumi in the Philippines. Maybe you should try Cortana with that. Right? And then it would start to track it there. And then Cortana will serve up things that are interesting. Reminders I'll talk about in a minute, but this thing is huge for me. It's not just about reminders, but it has geofencing that makes it really unique. Quiet hours, this is when we don't tell a story enough, but you can say, like I could say, Cortana, turn quiet hours on. In fact, let's just do that just to show you how it works. Turn quiet hours on.
Quiet hours is now on.
So what that means is I won't get any text buzzing or emails or phone calls, those type things. But if I go back into the notebook, I have quiet hours always set on as regular, and I say from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., turn quiet hours on, because this is also my alarm clock, because it's in my wireless charger. And so that means during that time, people can't text, email, or wake me up. But they also have something that says there's probably some people that you want to get through, so it's called inner circle. If I have an inner circle here, you can see my kids, my mom and dad, my girlfriend. So basically, they can get through during quiet hours, so when there's an emergency, et cetera. And so you can customize all this. But Cortana also says, here's who I think your inner circle. It's based on name matching. Here's who you've been talking to. Places, you can define places, music searches, et cetera. And then Cortana serves it. But a couple of the uses is, one is flights, which I travel a lot. So Cortana basically said, hey, I noticed you're flying to the Philippines. Do you want me to track that flight? I said, yes. Now I know how Cortana found it is I give Cortana access to my calendar. She's able to recognize flight numbers, do that. Second thing is when I land, so I'll fly back tonight to Seattle. When I land in Seattle, the minute I land, Cortana pops up and says, it's 23 minutes to your house. Here's what the traffic is, and here's the best route. I've never said anything to Cortana, but she's looked at my calendar. She knows I have a route home, and to do that. So really good on sort of this, I'll call it intelligence in the cloud. Another example is reminders. So I can say, remind me that Vlasta owes me $100. And Cortana says, when? And I'll say, next time Vlasta calls. Next time Vlasta calls, a little reminder pops up and says, hey, I owe you $100. My favorite one, though, is this geofencing. So I can say, remind me to pick up my dry cleaning. Cortana says, when? And I said, when I'm near Mercer Island Dry Cleaners, which is where I live in Seattle. When I get in that area, because it has geofencing, it pops up and says, hey, you're supposed to pick up dry cleaning. Same thing with groceries, etc. My favorite one, my son and I, 14-year-old son, were taking guitar lessons. And I'm always trying to think of songs that maybe him and I can learn, because we're both, he's better than I am, we're both terrible. So typically what I'll do is say, when I think of, so I was on the plane the other day and I thought of a song and I said, remind me to download the song sheet for X song. It says when, and it said when I get home. Right when I pulled in the driveway, the reminder said, pulled up, said, hey, download the song sheet. So really good stuff there, and we're just scratching the surface on what Cortana can do using this cloud intelligence.
It works in the Philippines too.
A
little bit. I've done reminders at work and stuff like that when I get to the office.
So what we're pushing on, because there's all this intelligence on the device, and then there's the back-end infrastructure where it really comes to life, which is using the Bing infrastructure. So places, maps, all those things. And so the language, first of all, because English speaking here, it works quite well. What we don't want to do is release it without some of those back-end services. But even without that, people are loving just the things on the device, the schedule, and those type things. We're trying to figure out what is the right way to do it. But the feedback we've gotten on Cortana is really good. If you look in the US where we launched it first, I'll call it, I'm not using the right marketing term, but the cool factor for Windows Phone and Lumia since we've launched Cortana has gone up like tenfold. So it really is something that's resonating and sticky, and you will see obviously a bigger bet on Cortana in the Microsoft strategy.
Well,
overall.
Since you've said that, and we hear mobile first, cloud first all the time. In terms of Windows 10, we've seen it already with the enterprise release.
I have Windows 10 on my Surface Pro 3 running right now, and they said, "Do you want to demo it?" And I said, "No, but if you want it, I should bring it in and have the demo."
But how much of with iOS, for example, a lot of iOS eventually found its way onto OS 10, and in terms of that whole mobile first strategy, things like Cortana, how much of Windows Phone will really dictate the future of the next version of Windows?
Yeah, it's
or the other way around.
Yeah, what I'd sort of say is stay tuned because they're going to announce more. They started with the enterprise features. Right. I think you'll hear more in the months ahead on consumer side of Windows 10. But one of the things that they're doing, by the way, it's a unified Windows team now.
Right.
It's not Windows on the PC, Windows on the phone. It's one team. Right. So you can expect. That to me is one of the differentiators that Microsoft has is how do you bring a common set of APIs, drivers, store, and experiences across all Windows devices, phone, tablet, PC, Xbox, etc., because that's all one team now. So the whole focus with Windows 10 is how do you bring a common experience for users, but then also a common development platform for developers and leverage that broad ecosystem.
Do you have a time frame for most of those back-end devices for some of the stuff that you talked about for Cortana? To actually arrive in countries outside of the U.S.
When you say back-end devices, meaning when is Cortana going to be released in other countries?
Mean, when will some of the services like for geofencing, stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't. It really depends on the Bing infrastructure and the cloud infrastructure, and I don't have the exact timings on those. And if I did, it'd probably be like the market share data. But this one I don't even have. The market share I have, I just won't share.
Because Cortana sounds awesome, and it probably is. Josh likes it, so it probably is. But then again, a lot of the features that you were talking about simply doesn't work here in the Philippines, just because there's there's no integration with traffic schedules, stuff like that.
Believe me, there's no shortage of focus to bring that infrastructure and Cortana to more markets. It's absolutely, and it is a big differentiator for us. So, rest assured that it's a big area of focus for the company.